Your mind is racing before you even get out of bed. The pressure is a constant hum in the background of modern life, a storm of worries about work, relationships, and the future that feels impossible to quiet. For thousands of years, a school of philosophers faced this same human turbulence, and they developed a surprising answer. It was not about crushing your feelings or pretending they did not exist. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his private journal that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This is the Stoic secret. They mastered their emotional world not through force, but through a deliberate, strategic art of inner vision. This video is a guide to those ancient visualization techniques. We will explore the specific mental exercises used by Stoics like Seneca and Epictetus to disarm worry, dissolve longing, and cool frustration. You will learn methods like rehearsing challenges to build resilience, zooming out to a broader perspective to shrink your problems, and personifying your emotions as passing visitors. By the end, you will have a practical toolkit of mental shifts to navigate life's complexity with far greater calm and clarity. How did philosophers train their minds to see obstacles as opportunities and change as a source of peace? What does it look like to visualize your way to emotional strength? What is one thought you could change the color of today? The most powerful Stoic technique for disarming anxiety begins with a simple, counterintuitive act, deliberately imagining everything going wrong. This practice is called Premeditatio Malorum. The premeditation a deliberate, almost clinical walk through the scenario. You close your eyes and visualize receiving the news. You feel the initial sting, the rush of heat to your face. Then you pause. You ask the Stoic question, what is within my control here? You cannot control the company's decision, but you can control your response. You see yourself updating your resume, reaching out to your network, considering a temporary position. You visualize adjusting your budget, finding simpler pleasures. You do not see yourself as lost. You see yourself as a capable person navigating a difficult transition. The event itself has not changed, but your relationship to it has been transformed from a source of dread to a manageable situation. Take the next 60 seconds. Identify one quiet worry that often visits your mind. It could be about a conversation, a practical concern, a personal goal. Now, instead of pushing it away, invite it in. Walk through the most challenging, reasonable outcome, not with panic, but with a calm focus on your own agency. What is the very first thing you would do? What inner strength would you call upon? This is not an exercise in fear. It is an exercise in meeting your own resilience. When a problem feels all-consuming, what if you could see it from the edge of the galaxy? This is the essence of the Stoics' second powerful visualization, often called the view from above. It is a deliberate mental shift from a close-up personal lens to a vast cosmic perspective. The goal is not to make your life seem meaningless, but to recalibrate your sense of scale. Our worries have a way of expanding to fill the entire room of our mind. This technique is the antidote to that self-absorption, a way to open a window and let in the fresh air of a much larger reality. Marcus Aurelius was a master of this practice. In the quiet moments of his life, ruling an empire, he would write reminders to himself about the grand sweep of time and space. He reflected on how countless individuals before him had lived with the same intense passions and fears, and how they had all passed into history. He contemplated the earth itself as a mere speck in the cosmos. He was not indulging in escapism. He was practicing the Stoic virtue of living in accordance with nature, which meant understanding his true, small place within an immense and ancient system. By seeing his life from this vantage point, his immediate frustrations, insults, and desires lost their sharp, painful edges. They became small parts of a vast flowing whole. You can practice this right now, no telescope required. Begin by closing your eyes and picturing the room you are in. Then, in your mind's eye, pull the camera back. See your building, then your neighborhood, then your entire city from above, with all its intricate networks of streets and lives. Keep going. See your country as a shape on a globe, then see the planet itself, a beautiful blue marble hanging in the black silence of space. From here, notice all the human activity below, the rise and fall of civilizations, the brief flicker of a human life against the backdrop of geological time. That argument you had, that project you are stressed about, that social slight that stung, where are they now from this height? They are still real, but they are no longer the center of the universe. They are small waves on a very large ocean. This perspective shrinks trivial concerns and clarifies what truly deserves your energy. It asks a simple, grounding question about any current stressor. Will this matter in a month? Will it matter in a year? What about in a century? The answer often brings a sudden, quiet sense of relief. It allows you to distinguish between a genuine hardship and a temporary inconvenience that your mind has magnified. By regularly visiting this cosmic viewpoint, you train your mind to default to a calmer, more resilient center. You begin to carry a piece of that quiet space within you, even when you are back on the ground, navigating the crowded streets of your daily life. Stoic emotional mastery begins with a single mental dividing line. It is the practice of the dichotomy of control, and its power lies not in a philosophical theory, but in a simple daily visualization. You create two clear mental spaces, two distinct categories for every event that enters your awareness. On one side, you place everything that is truly and fully within your power. On the other, you place everything that is not. This is not a one-time decision you make and forget. It is an active, moment-by-moment exercise in sorting your experience, a way to train your mind to stop spending precious energy on storms you cannot calm. The Stoic teacher Epictetus began his famous handbook with this very point. He stated that some things are up to us and some things are not. Our opinions, our impulses, our desires, and our actions, these are up to us. Our physical form, our possessions, how we are perceived by others, and what other people do, these are not. The entire aim of a good life, he taught, was to focus relentlessly on the first category and meet the second with calm acceptance. Think of it as a mental filter for your daily frustrations. You are stuck in traffic, late for an important meeting. Your heart rate climbs, your grip tightens on the steering wheel. This is the moment for the visualization. Close your eyes for just a second, even amid the noise around you. See two circles in your mind. In the circle labeled "Not up to me," you deliberately place the red light, the behavior of other drivers, the delay far ahead, the schedule of the meeting itself. You acknowledge these facts without resistance. Then you shift your gaze to the circle labeled "Up to me." Here you place your breathing. You place your choice to listen to an interesting podcast or audiobook. You place your decision to call ahead and calmly inform them you are delayed. You place your attitude when you finally arrive. The traffic situation has not changed, but your relationship to it has undergone a complete transformation. Your emotional energy is no longer boiling away against an immovable object. It is being channeled into constructive and peaceful action within your own sphere. This practice conserves your inner resources for what truly shapes your character and your choices. Every time you feel a surge of frustration at a colleague's remark or concern about tomorrow's weather, you pause to perform this mental sort. Is this remark up to me? No, it resides in the external circle. Is my interpretation of it and my thoughtful response up to me? Absolutely, that goes right into the circle of control. The visualization makes the abstract principle tangible. It turns philosophy into a practical tool you can use while waiting in line, during a difficult conversation, or when facing a personal letdown. Right now, bring to mind a minor irritation from your day. perhaps a plan that was changed, a piece of constructive feedback, a household task left undone. In your mind, draw those two circles. With clear intention, place each element of that situation into its proper home. Feel the release of tension as you mentally move the uncontrollable factors out of your hands, and feel the quiet power that comes from focusing on what remains squarely within them. Anger is not a part of you, but a loud and uninvited guest knocking at your door. You have a choice in that moment. You can throw the door open and invite it inside to rearrange your furniture, or you can acknowledge its presence from behind the locked door and decide not to grant it entry. This is the heart of the Stoic practice of personification, a profound mental shift that transforms how we experience our own inner weather. The goal is to create a little space, to see a surge of envy or a spike of fear, not as a truth about who you are, but as a temporary and external visitor passing through the territory of your mind. This distance is the space where choice lives. It is the difference between being swept away by a wave and standing safely on the shore, watching it roll in and then recede. The Stoics called the core of the self the ruling faculty. Its sole job is to maintain sovereignty, to judge the impressions that arrive and decide which are worthy of belief and action. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about this in his personal meditations. He advised himself to receive impressions without being carried away by them, to let them sit at the door and ask if they are who they claim to be. By visualizing a feeling as its own separate entity, you are strengthening that inner authority. You are reminding yourself that you are not the emotion, you are the conscious awareness observing it. Your core self remains untouched, like the sky that contains the weather but is never defined by a single passing storm. You can practice this with any strong feeling that arises. When a wave of frustration arrives after a long day, close your eyes for just a moment. Do not fight it. Instead, see it as a dark and rumbling cloud moving across the sky of your mind. Watch it with simple curiosity. Notice its shape and its texture. It may bring rain, it may rumble with sound, but you are the vast and silent sky that holds it. The cloud is not the sky, and in time it will always pass. This way of seeing is not about suppression. It is about observation without getting tangled up in the story. It allows the physical sensation to exist without the narrative we usually attach to it, the story that says this is unfair or this proves something about us. The next time you feel a sharp rise of anxiety before a difficult task, try this simple and powerful act of naming. In your mind, or even whispered aloud, say, "Here is anxiety." That tiny phrase creates an essential separation. It is no longer "I am anxious," which feels like a statement of identity. It becomes "Here is anxiety," which is simply a statement of observation. You have just changed your relationship to the feeling. You have placed it outside yourself for a moment, like setting a book on a table to examine its cover. From this place of gentle detachment, you can then ask the thoughtful question, what is this feeling trying to tell me, and what, if anything, within my circle of control can I do about its source? The visitor may have a message, but you decide whether it gets a seat at your table or is thanked for its time and shown the door. The Stoics did not shy from the thought of an ending. They visualized it daily to transform how they lived. This practice, known as Memento Mori, is often misunderstood as a dark obsession. In truth, it was their most vital tool for clarity and purpose. The visualization was not about fear, but about focus. It was a lens held up to the blur of daily life, forcing into sharp relief what was truly essential and what was merely noise. In a world that encourages us to ignore the inevitable, the Stoics chose to look directly at it because they understood a simple paradox. By accepting the finiteness of time, we begin to use it infinitely better. Seneca captured this with piercing clarity in his letters on the shortness of life. He wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it. He observed how people guard their material possessions fiercely, yet allow their most precious resource, their time, to be taken by distractions, by the demands of others, and by their own lack of intention. The Memento Mori meditation was the antidote to this. It was a daily reminder that this day, this very hour, is a non-renewable gift. By visualizing a natural conclusion, you are compelled to evaluate the journey. You stop postponing your best intentions, your meaningful conversations, your moments of quiet joy. The thought of a transition dissolves procrastination and highlights the beauty of what is already here, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of a loved one's voice, the simple act of a deep breath. You can bring this from ancient philosophy into a modern moment with a simple, gentle meditation. It does not require dwelling on specifics. Instead, find a quiet space and close your eyes. Visualize the end of this day. See yourself looking back over the hours. What single action, what moment of connection or creation would make you feel this day was well lived? Now pull the perspective back further. Visualize the end of this year. Looking back across the months, what would you wish to have built, learned, or nurtured? Finally, in the broadest sense, consider the arc of a life well lived. From that imagined point of reflection, what qualities of character, what contributions, what relationships would matter most? This exercise is not meant to induce pressure, but to provide a profound filter for your daily choices. It asks you to align your actions now with the person you ultimately wish to become. The power of this practice lies in its immediacy. It takes the vast, abstract concept of a lifetime and makes it practical for the next hour. If you visualize this day as a meaningful part of your larger story, what one small thing would you do differently? Perhaps you would set aside the compulsive scrolling and have a real conversation. Maybe you would finally start that project you have been dreaming about, not with a grand plan, but with a single, small step. You might choose patience in a moment of frustration, recognizing the irreplaceable value of the connection in front of you. Memento Mori does not whisper to run faster. It asks you to choose more wisely. It turns the ticking of the clock from a source of anxiety into a gentle, persistent guide back to what is real, what is kind, and what is truly yours to shape. When faced with a difficult person, the Stoics had a secret. They would summon an imaginary advisor. This was not an act of escapism, but a deliberate form of ethical modeling. The technique is called visualizing the ideal sage, a mental figure who embodies perfect wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. The goal was never to achieve an impossible standard, but to create a living benchmark for virtue in action. By having this model at hand, you give your mind a clear and inspiring template to follow, especially when your own feelings might pull you in a less constructive direction. Epictetus was a strong proponent of this practice. He urged his students to always have figures like Socrates or Zeno at their elbow, as he put it, to observe how a good and virtuous person would respond to events. He was not suggesting they imitate these historical figures blindly, but that they internalize the principles these sages represented. It is about asking a powerful question in the moment of challenge. What would wisdom do here? This shifts your focus from a reactive and ego-driven response to a principled and considered course of action. You are no longer just you, wrestling with frustration. You are a student consulting a master, seeking the higher path. You can apply this in your own life with remarkable simplicity. Before a tense meeting or a difficult conversation, take just 60 seconds to close your eyes. Visualize your ideal sage. This is not a stern and emotionless statue, but a figure of profound calm and clarity. See them entering the room. How do they carry themselves? How do they listen before they speak? Watch as they receive a critical comment, not as a personal attack, but as information to be understood. Observe how they express a firm boundary with grace, or ask a question that illuminates the heart of the matter. They act from a place of unwavering inner integrity, not from fleeting pride or fear. This mental rehearsal does something profound. It prepares a neural pathway for a different kind of response. When the actual moment arrives, you are not starting from scratch. You have already seen a version of the scene play out with wisdom in the leading role, making it far easier for you to step into that same role yourself. Your ideal sage becomes a kind of inner compass, always pointing toward your best self. So, what qualities would your inner sage possess? Perhaps it is a deep and unshakable patience, or the courage to speak a gentle truth. Maybe it is the wisdom to know when to act and when to simply observe. Take a moment to define this for yourself, then bring to mind your current biggest challenge. It might be a recurring situation, a personal habit you wish to change, or a goal that feels daunting. Now, watch your sage approach that very situation. What is their first move? What silent principle guides their hand? The answer you find is not a rigid rule, but a living insight into how you might navigate your world with greater grace and strength. A frustrating delay is not a problem, it is the gym for your patience muscle. This is the radical reframing at the heart of the Stoic response to hardship. The technique is simple yet profound. You visualize every obstacle, every difficulty, every setback as a deliberate training exercise sent to strengthen a specific quality within you. The event itself does not change, but your perception of its purpose undergoes a complete transformation. What was once a source of frustration becomes an opportunity to practice calm. What felt like an unfair situation becomes a chance to exercise understanding. The Stoics called this principle the obstacle is the way, meaning the very thing blocking your path becomes the material you use to build a better path forward. Marcus Aurelius captured this mindset perfectly in his private writings. He stated that an impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. He was teaching himself to see each challenge not as a random piece of bad luck, but as the essential raw material for building character. A smooth, effortless life provides no resistance, and without resistance, there is no strength. Just as a blade is tempered by fire and careful shaping, our virtues like courage, perseverance, and self-control are formed through the heat of daily experience. Mentally relabeling an event changes its emotional charge instantly. Think of a common modern frustration, like receiving harsh feedback at work. The default reaction might be defensiveness, resentment, a simmering sense of being wronged. Now apply the Stoic visualization. Close your eyes and see that feedback not as an attack, but as a sparring partner in a mental gym. This partner is here to test your self-knowledge. Can you listen without your ego flaring up? Can you sift the comment for any useful grain of truth without swallowing the whole thing? Can you respond with clarity rather than emotion? The criticism has not become pleasant, but it has become purposeful. Its job is to help you build your resilience and sharpen your discernment. This practice turns the entire world into a personalized curriculum for growth. A traffic jam trains your acceptance, a difficult conversation trains your diplomacy, a personal shortcoming trains your humility and your determination to begin again. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" The focus shifts from the external event, which you often cannot control, to your internal response, which you absolutely can. Your challenge now is to make this active. Bring to mind one current difficulty in your life. It might be a strained relationship, a financial pressure, a personal concern, or a goal that feels out of reach. Now perform the mental reframe. Do not just think about it, visualize it. See this situation as a training ground. What specific quality is it asking you to develop? Is it patience, courage, creativity, or perhaps compassion? Name the training. This obstacle is my training for patience. This setback is my training for resilience. By giving it this new label, you drain it of its power to discourage you and infuse it with a sense of deliberate, meaningful purpose. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are an athlete in the arena of your own character, and every challenge is a chance to become stronger. Stoic emotional mastery often involved zooming in on the self. but sometimes it required zooming out to see the web that connects us all. This final visualization practice is called Sympathaya, the deep recognition of interconnectedness. It is the deliberate act of seeing yourself not as a solitary island, but as a vital strand in a vast living tapestry. Where other techniques build inner resilience, this one builds bridges outward, dissolving the illusion of separation that fuels so much of our conflict and loneliness. The Stoics saw the universe as a single, rational, and interconnected organism. To cause difficulty for another, or to feel utterly separate from them, was seen as a kind of ignorance, a failure to perceive the true nature of reality. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this constantly. He wrote that we are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth. To act against one another is contrary to nature, and it is acting against one another to be resentful and to turn away. His words point to a profound truth that our natural state is one of mutual support and shared purpose. This practice is a direct counterbalance to the ego. When we feel slighted, offended, or simply irritated by someone, our perspective shrinks to a pinpoint. We see only their action and our reaction. Sympathaya asks us to widen that lens dramatically. It begins with a simple, challenging act of imagination. Think of a person who currently frustrates you. Instead of holding onto the snapshot of their annoying behavior, press play on the movie of their life. Visualize them as a child, learning how to navigate a complex world, likely facing their own fears and uncertainties. Picture the influences that shaped them, the private challenges they carry that you know nothing about, the experiences that have made them who they are. See them sitting down to a meal, feeling tired after a long day, hoping for a moment of peace just like you. This is not about excusing poor behavior, but about understanding its origin. It transforms an adversary into a fellow human being, flawed and complex, acting from their own mix of personal history and limited perspective. The application here is deeply practical for daily friction. In a traffic dispute, instead of seeing a reckless driver, you might briefly visualize a person under immense stress, rushing to a situation they cannot control, acting out of anxiety rather than malice. With a difficult colleague, you could mentally acknowledge the pressures they face from their own superiors, the insecurities that might fuel their competitiveness. This does not mean you become a passive doormat. You can still set boundaries and take clear action, but you do so from a place of clarity and compassion rather than from bubbling resentment. Your energy is no longer consumed by the heat of judgment. It is freed for a constructive response. So, how might visualizing your connection to someone you disagree with change your feelings toward them? It introduces a softening pause, a space where empathy can grow. You begin to see their actions as symptoms of a shared human condition, not as personal attacks on your universe. This final Stoic visualization completes the journey. It moves from mastering your inner world through premeditation and perspective to engaging with the outer world through understanding and interconnectedness. You realize that emotional mastery was never just about your own peace. It was about learning to see clearly, and in that clear sight, finding your rightful, harmonious place within the whole. What happens when you mentally fast forward past the applause and the award ceremony? This is the final layer of Stoic visualization, a quiet meditation on the fleeting nature of all external rewards. We spend so much energy chasing recognition, wealth, and status, believing they will cement our worth and bring lasting satisfaction. The Stoics offered a different path to stability. They practiced deliberately visualizing these prizes not at the moment of acquisition, but long after the shine had worn off. This was not an exercise in cynicism, but in liberation. By internalizing the temporary nature of what they called indifferents, things that are neither good nor bad in themselves, they cultivated a happiness that could not be taken away because it was built on nothing outside their own character. Seneca wrote thoughtfully about the hollow chase for public validation. He observed that the applause of the crowd is a sound of empty noise, a fickle and unreliable echo. He argued that a life spent performing for the approval of others is a life lived in a prison of other people's opinions. True fulfillment, what the Greeks called eudaimonia, comes from living in accordance with virtue, from an inner excellence that remains steady regardless of whether you are celebrated or ignored. Visualizing the brevity of fame and fortune trains the mind to see these things for what they are, pleasant or unpleasant occurrences that flow past the solid rock of your core self. You can apply this with a simple thought experiment. Think of a grand achievement you deeply desire, perhaps a professional award, a major promotion, or public acclaim for a creative project. Now visualize the moment of receiving it. Feel the initial rush, the handshakes, the glowing praise. Then press fast forward. See the award sitting on a shelf a year later, gathering a fine layer of dust. The certificate fades slightly in the sunlight. People have moved on to celebrate the next new thing. The feeling you had in that moment is now just a memory, no more tangible than the scent of a flower that has long since passed. The event itself has not lost its value, but its power to define your happiness has been gently set aside. You see it clearly as a single chapter, not the entire story of your life. The same practice works for material possessions. Picture that luxury item you covet, the car, the watch, the latest device. Visualize the thrill of unboxing it, the pristine newness. Now imagine it 5 years from now. It has a mark you cannot quite buff out. The technology is outdated. It sits in a drawer replaced by a newer model, its initial magic completely evaporated. The object itself has not changed your inner world in any permanent way. This visualization is not meant to make you stop enjoying nice things, but to break the spell of believing they are essential to your peace. It places them in their proper category as temporary guests in your life, not permanent residents of your soul. So take a quiet moment now. Identify one external reward your mind is currently fixated on, whether it is social validation, a financial goal, or a symbol of status. Close your eyes and walk through the entire cycle. See the acquisition, the brief peak of excitement, and then the inevitable transition into ordinary memory. Watch as its emotional charge dissipates like mist in the morning sun. What remains when the applause has completely faded and the trophy is just an object on a shelf? What you find there, in that quiet space after the imagined fanfare, is the only thing that was ever truly yours to begin with. Between a triggering event and your reaction, the Stoics inserted a visualized pause, a space for freedom. They called this the Discipline of Assent, and it is perhaps the most practical of all their techniques for emotional mastery. This is not about stopping a feeling from arising. That is impossible. It is about what you do in the crucial split second after it arrives. You learn to see your initial emotional impression not as a command, but as a suggestion, one you have the absolute power to either accept or reject. The philosopher Epictetus framed this as our greatest human power. He taught that people are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. Between a stimulus and our response, he said, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Your entire emotional life changes when you learn to visualize and then inhabit that space. Let us break down this process in slow motion, turning an abstract idea into a mental movie you can direct. First, a triggering event occurs. Someone cuts you off in traffic, a colleague sends a brief email, a plan you were excited about changes. An immediate impression floods your mind, a raw, unchallenged thought. That driver is inconsiderate. My colleague is having a difficult day. This is a setback. This impression carries an emotional charge. It feels true. The undisciplined mind immediately assents. It says, yes, that is exactly what this means. And with that agreement, the feeling of frustration or disappointment locks into place, influencing your next words and actions. The Stoic intervention happens right here, in the microseconds after the impression forms but before you give it your endorsement. Visualize it this way: the impression is like a knock at the door of your mind. Instead of flinging the door open automatically, you pause, you look through the peephole. You see the visitor and you can even feel its emotional energy, but you do not open the door yet. You take a breath and examine it. Is this visitor telling the whole truth? Is it a permanent reality or a temporary feeling? Is this interpretation helpful, or is it just one possible story among many? This act of examination is the visualization of the pause. You are creating a buffer zone between the external event and your internal world. Take the example of the brief email. The impression arrives sharp and sudden. This feels personal. The old pattern is to assent immediately, sending a quick reply or feeling upset. The Stoic practice is to visualize the pause. You see the email on your screen, and you see the wave of reaction rising. In your mind, you picture yourself stepping back. You watch the feeling as if it were a signal on a control panel. The signal is not a problem, it is just information. You then ask the examining questions. Is it possible this tone comes from their own pressure, not their view of me? Does this single message define our entire connection? What is the most constructive outcome I actually want here? By refusing to immediately assent to the first, most reactive story, you reclaim the authority to choose a wiser one. So, bring to mind a recent moment where you had a strong, immediate reaction. It could be a small frustration or a larger shift in plans. Now, in your imagination, replay that moment in slow motion. See the event happen. See the initial impression form, that raw, unchallenged thought, and right there, insert the visualized pause. See yourself creating a bubble of silent space around that impression. Examine it from all sides. What other stories could fit the facts? What would your calmest, wisest self believe is actually happening? This is not about denying your feelings, but about questioning the automatic narratives that give those feelings their intensity. In that pause, you are not a passenger on a rushing emotional train. You are the guide, calmly considering which path to take. For the Stoics, the reward for doing the right thing was visualized as the act itself, perfectly executed. This turns the entire concept of motivation on its head. We are conditioned to expect a payoff, a thank you, a promotion, or at least a feeling of relief. But what if the deepest satisfaction came not from the result, but from the quality of the action you took to get there? This final visualization practice is about cultivating that intrinsic reward system. It involves mentally savoring the feeling of integrity, the quiet alignment with your own principles that comes from choosing courage over comfort or justice over convenience. You visualize not the outcome but the virtue in motion, and you learn to see that as the entire point. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully in his personal writings. He wrote that we should find joy in the action itself, just as a vine produces grapes and does not ask for anything in return beyond doing what it was made to do. A vine finds its fulfillment in the act of bearing fruit, regardless of who eats the grapes or how they are received. In the same way, a person finds their fulfillment in the act of living virtuously. The reward is in the expression of your nature, not in the external consequences that follow, which are often outside your control. This mindset liberates you from the anxiety of results. You are no longer a gambler hoping for a lucky spin. You are an artist who finds meaning in the brushstroke itself. Let us make this practical. Imagine you witness a situation where someone is not being treated well, perhaps in a meeting or a social setting. The common impulse might be to weigh the risks. Will speaking up make me a target? Will it be awkward? What if no one backs me up? The Stoic visualization bypasses this calculus. Before you act, you close your eyes for a moment. You do not picture the potential backlash or the possible gratitude. Instead, you visualize the act of speaking with calm clarity. You see yourself stating the facts without malice, upholding a principle of fairness. You focus the mental image entirely on the feeling of justice being enacted through your words, the inner solidity of aligning your action with what you know is right. The external noise fades away. The reward is crystallized in that moment of courageous choice. This practice builds a self-sustaining engine for ethical action. You begin to act rightly not because you hope for a certain response from the world, but because acting rightly is how you wish to meet the world. It becomes its own compass. Think of a small, right action available to you today. It could be offering genuine praise to a colleague, choosing patience with a family member, or completing a task with care even when no one is watching. Now perform the visualization. See yourself doing that thing, but in your mind's eye, zoom in on the virtue being expressed. Is it kindness? Is it diligence? Is it honesty? Feel the quiet satisfaction of that expression, as if you were a musician playing a single, perfect note. The note does not need an applause to be beautiful. Its beauty is in its own true sound. Can you visualize performing one small, right action today and mentally place the entire reward within the virtue of the act itself? Stoic empathy was a muscle trained by a unique visualization, pulling strangers into your inner circle. This practice moves beyond managing personal emotions to actively shaping our relationship with the world. It is called the circles of concern, a model attributed to the ancient Stoic thinker Hierocles. He asked us to picture our lives as a series of concentric rings. At the very center, you place yourself. The next ring out holds your immediate family. Then comes your extended family, followed by your local community, your fellow citizens, and finally, the outermost ring contains all of humanity. The model itself is simple, but the exercise is profound. Your task is not to stay within your comfortable inner rings. It is to practice in your mind, drawing the outer circles inward. You consciously visualize pulling the people in the wider rings closer to the center, extending your sense of care and consideration to them as if they were neighbors, then as if they were family. Hierocles suggested we should try to reduce the distance, mentally transforming strangers into kin. This was not a vague ideal. It was a daily training in social duty and kindness. The goal was to live according to nature, and a core part of human nature, the Stoics believed, is our innate sociability and connection. Think of how naturally you make allowances for a close friend who is having a difficult day. Their sharp tone is instantly forgiven, met with concern rather than offense. Now apply that same mental mechanism to someone in an outer ring. The practice begins with a simple daily interaction. Consider the barista who makes your coffee, the delivery person, or a stranger waiting with you at a crosswalk. In the rush of the day, they exist in that outer circle of humanity, almost as background characters in your story. The Stoic exercise asks you to pause for just a moment and perform the mental pull. Visualize this person not as a function, but as a full human being. See them as someone who likely has a family they are working to support, who has hopes and worries of their own, who is navigating their own set of challenges. Mentally draw their circle inward, treating them, in your mind, as part of your extended community. This shift in perspective changes everything about the interaction. Your smile becomes genuine, your patience expands, your simple thank you carries weight. You are not just being polite, you are actively recognizing a shared bond. This visualization builds the muscle of cosmopolitanism, the Stoic idea of being a citizen of the world. It systematically dismantles the us versus them thinking that is the source of so much conflict. When you mentally pull an entire group closer, their problems begin to feel more relatable, their humanity more vivid. It becomes harder to dismiss or disregard them. Your circle of concern widens, and with it, your capacity for compassionate action. So here is a reflective prompt to make this active. Bring to mind a person who currently exists in one of your outer circles, perhaps a political figure you disagree with, a distant acquaintance, or simply a face in the crowd you see often but never speak to. Now visualize their circle, see the ring they are in, hovering out there in your mental model. Then, with deliberate intention, imagine drawing that circle closer. What would it look like to treat them with the baseline kindness and consideration you reserve for your inner circle? You do not have to agree with them or become their closest friend. But what single, small action would reflect that pulled closer connection? Perhaps it is listening more carefully to understand their perspective, or offering a simple gesture of respect where you might have previously offered indifference. In that act of mental drawing closer, you are not just changing your view of them, you are strengthening the very quality of your own character. Before the world made its demands, Stoics would run a mental simulation of the day, scripting their own composure. This morning ritual was not a to-do list for tasks, but a rehearsal for character. Marcus Aurelius began his days with this very practice, writing notes to himself about the people he was likely to encounter. He anticipated the meddling, the ungrateful, the arrogant, but his focus was never on changing them. His visualization was entirely about fortifying his own inner citadel, deciding in advance how he would meet their behavior with his own unwavering virtue. He prepared his mind so that when friction arrived, his response would not be a reactive spark, but a deliberate choice. This is proactive emotional regulation in its purest form. You are not trying to control the unpredictable events of the day. You are taking control of the one thing you always can, your intention. Seneca echoed this wisdom in his letters. He advised examining the whole day ahead in your mind, a practice he saw as a form of self-preservation. By foreseeing possible difficulties, you are never caught off guard. The goal is to set a clear intention for your character, a simple mantra for the day. I will meet haste with deliberation. I will meet confusion with clarity. I will meet irritability with a steady patience. This mental scripting transforms you from a passive recipient of whatever the day brings into an active participant in shaping your own experience. The event may be external, but your stance toward it is a prepared internal fact. Here is how you can bring this ancient practice into a modern morning. Find just 2 quiet minutes before you check your phone or begin the rush. Close your eyes. Picture the day's likely anchor points, your commute, a scheduled meeting, a routine chore that often tests you. Now choose one specific scenario. Perhaps it is a project review where you expect critical feedback. Do not visualize the criticism itself. Instead, visualize your ideal response. See yourself listening fully, your breathing calm. Watch as you ask a thoughtful question to clarify the point, your voice even and curious. Feel the internal sensation of choosing understanding over defensiveness. You are not planning a scripted dialogue, you are conditioning a state of being. The power of this exercise lies in its simplicity and its focus on agency. It asks you to define success not by the outcome of the meeting, but by the quality of your presence within it. When you later walk into that room, you carry the memory of that mental rehearsal. The neural pathway has already been lightly traced, making the virtuous response feel more familiar, more like you. So, tomorrow morning, gift yourself those 2 minutes. Before the noise begins, sit with your coffee or simply in the quiet of your waking mind. Visualize your day not as a series of demands, but as a series of opportunities to practice a chosen strength. What single virtue would most serve you tomorrow? Is it courage to initiate a difficult conversation, or perhaps compassion for someone who seems distant? See yourself enacting it in a specific, likely moment. This small act of mental preparation does not create a perfect day, but it does create a more prepared you, ready to meet whatever comes with a composed and steady heart. The Stoics would gaze at a river not just to see water, but to see a masterclass in letting go. This practice went beyond simple observation. It was a direct meditation on the most fundamental law of the universe, that everything flows. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus captured it with the phrase pantarei, meaning all is in flux, and the Stoics made this truth a cornerstone of their emotional resilience. To visualize the constant, graceful flow of nature is to train the mind in the art of acceptance. You watch the river and see that no single droplet of water remains in the same place for more than an instant. The current carries leaves along, sometimes gently, sometimes with force, but always forward. The bank itself slowly erodes and reshapes over seasons. In this endless movement, the Stoics found a powerful metaphor for our own lives. Our circumstances, our relationships, our very selves are not fixed statues, but living currents. Resistance to change is not just futile, it is a refusal to align with the nature of reality itself. Marcus Aurelius returned to this theme often in his private writings. He reflected on the ceaseless change of all material things, noting how the universe is transformation and life is opinion. He would remind himself that everything you see will soon be altered and will cease to exist, or it will be changed into something else. This was not a dark thought for him. It was a source of profound peace. By internalizing that change is the default state of all things, he could meet both transitions and gains with a steadier heart. The promotion he celebrated today would one day be a memory. The challenge he endured would one day be a lesson integrated into his character. Seeing life as this river allowed him to hold things lightly, appreciating their presence without clinging to their permanence. You can apply this visualization to soften the edge of personal transitions. Consider a difficult ending you have experienced, perhaps the close of a meaningful chapter in your life, a shift in a relationship, or the passing of a season of ease. The natural reaction is to see this as a singular, difficult event happening to you. Now try the Stoic reframe. Close your eyes and picture that specific ending not as a solitary, sharp stone in your path, but as a single leaf falling into the vast, flowing river of universal change. Watch it land on the water's surface, see it carried along, joining countless other leaves from countless other lives, all moving with the same current. Your experience is real and valid, but it is not an isolated event. It is part of the grand, beautiful, and inevitable process of flux that touches every single thing. This perspective does not erase the feeling of change, but it can prevent that feeling from solidifying into a permanent state of resistance. It helps you see your situation as part of a larger, natural order, making it feel less personally targeted and more universally human. So, bring to mind a current situation in your life that you deeply wish would stay the same. It might be a period of comfort, a dynamic in a friendship, or a state of good health. Now visualize it as a calm, beautiful eddy in that great river. For a while, the water swirls gently in this pleasing pattern, but slowly, inevitably, watch the current's force begin to pull at the edges of that eddy. See the pattern gradually dissolve, its components rejoining the main flow to travel onward. The beauty was real, but its temporary nature was written into its very existence. Can you feel the subtle internal shift that happens when you stop insisting the eddy remain static and instead appreciate it fully as a passing, perfect part of the river's endless journey? Stoics pursued goals with total effort, but their visualizations always included a silent, freeing asterisk. This is the practice of the reserve clause, a mental footnote added to every ambition and plan. In Latin, it was expressed as the idea of a higher will at work. For the Stoics, it was a specific concept meaning reservation or holding back in a very particular sense. It was not a lack of commitment or a whispered doubt. It was a complete release of attachment to the specific result, a way to pour your entire being into the action while holding the outcome with an open hand. Epictetus taught this with striking clarity. He said that in every pursuit you must hold the matter itself subject to this reservation, in harmony with nature. You must not seek to have events happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen, and you will find tranquility. He was not advocating passivity. He was describing the precise mental architecture for focused effort without creating your own distress. You visualize the path, you commit to the walk, but you do not demand that the path be free of all unexpected turns. Seneca echoed this in his letters on planning. He wrote that we should undertake all activities with the reservation, "if nothing prevents me." This small phrase transforms the entire emotional landscape of striving. It creates a psychological buffer between your virtuous effort, which is always within your control, and the world's response, which never is. You are freed from the tyranny of a specific future you have painted in your mind. The goal is no longer a rigid idol you must appease. It becomes a direction you travel with integrity, come what may. Apply this to a modern high-stakes scenario, like preparing for a crucial job interview. The common approach is to visualize success, to picture yourself receiving good news, to imagine the feeling of accomplishment. The Stoic approach adds a vital layer. You still visualize your preparation with total focus, seeing yourself research the company, practice your responses, and select your attire. You visualize walking into the room with calm confidence, engaging with clarity and curiosity. But then you consciously add the reserve clause to the outcome. You perform well, you present your best self if nothing prevents it, that it could be an internal candidate, a sudden shift in the company's direction, or simply a different fit that has nothing to do with your worth. By including this clause in your mental rehearsal, you accomplish something profound. You separate your sense of self from the result. Your value is placed squarely on the quality of your effort, on the courage and preparation you brought to the moment. The final decision moves into the category of external events you meet with calm acceptance, not personal validation or rejection. So take a moment with a current goal of your own. It might be a fitness target, a creative project, or a personal conversation you need to have. First, visualize the effort. See yourself doing the work with dedication and presence. Feel the integrity of that action. Now, consciously append the silent asterisk to the desired result. See the outcome floating slightly apart from you, connected to your effort but not defined by it. As circumstances allow, this mental shift does not reduce your drive, it purifies it. Your energy is no longer split between action and anxious attachment. It is unified in the simple, powerful act of showing up fully, leaving the rest to the flowing river of the world. The next time someone upsets you, the Stoics would suggest a simple mental shift to see the situation from their perspective. This makes the idea of shared connection intensely practical, a focused exercise meant to ease tension before it grows. When we feel frustrated, our instinct is to reduce the other person to a single role: the difficult boss, the inattentive partner, the careless stranger. We simplify their entire story into a single note, making our own reaction feel more justified. The Stoic approach is to consciously reverse this, to rebuild in your mind the whole person standing before you, complete with their own unseen challenges, their limited viewpoint, and a basic wish for contentment that is no different from your own. This is not about making excuses for poor conduct, but about seeking to understand its source. Irritation struggles to hold its intensity when you genuinely recognize the person involved as another traveler, just as capable of mistakes. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of this in his private writings. He observed that when people act in ways that seem unhelpful, they do so because from their own vantage point, it appears right or necessary. To be upset with someone for this, he reflected, is as unproductive as being upset with a fig tree for yielding its sap. They are acting from their own nature and their own understanding, however incomplete that understanding might be. Your mental exercise, then, is an act of acknowledging that understanding for yourself. You are not required to agree with their actions, but to consider the human journey that led them there. This softens the assumption that they are acting from a unique ill will aimed only at you. and instead reveals a far more common narrative of human imperfection. Consider a common modern moment of tension, like another driver making a sudden maneuver. The immediate, unchecked feeling is one of personal slight, a targeted act of disregard. The emotional response is a quick flash of heat. Now apply the Stoic shift. In the moments afterward, instead of feeding that reaction, you deliberately picture the scene from inside the other car. Imagine not a storybook antagonist, but simply another person. Perhaps they just heard some unsettling news. Maybe they are hurrying toward a circumstance that feels urgent, their own worry showing itself as haste. They could be tired and distracted, having simply made an error in a moment of lapse. This thoughtful practice does not make their action acceptable, but it changes the meaning you assign to it. The other driver transforms from a vague source of annoyance into a specific, imperfect individual having a hard time, just as you have had before. Your frustration finds less to hold onto and starts to fade, replaced by a more measured, though still cautious, point of view. Your practice is to bring this from the road into the center of your everyday encounters. Think of a current, specific issue you have with someone. It might be a co-worker's offhand remark, a friend's forgetfulness, or a relative's familiar pattern that tries your patience. Now pause the story of your own grievance. For just a minute, close your eyes and try that mental shift. Picture the world from their standpoint. What unseen pressures might they be carrying? What past experiences or uncertainties could be influencing their choices? What personal hope or concern might they be acting from? See them not as a figure in your narrative, but as the central person in their own, doing what seems best to them, however mistaken, to find their way. Can you notice the subtle internal change when you exchange the idea of an opponent for the reality of a complex human being? This reflection does not require you to accept poor treatment, but it allows you to answer from a place of understanding rather than from the intensity of a simplified anger. A sudden rainstorm ruins your picnic. Do you see it as a personal insult or simply as weather? This distinction is the heart of a powerful Stoic visualization rooted in their understanding of physics, not in the modern sense of particles and forces, but as the study of nature and its unbreakable laws of cause and effect. The Stoics saw the entire cosmos as a single, rational, interconnected system they called the logos. Within this system, every event, from the growth of a tree to the changing tides of an empire, was understood as the natural and necessary result of prior causes. Nothing happened randomly or with personal intent. When you learn to visualize disruptive events through this lens, you strip them of a narrative they never truly carried, the story of malice or a universe conspiring against you. You see them instead as neutral occurrences, as inevitable as a cloud releasing rain after sufficient moisture has gathered. Your emotional reaction is no longer a response to a personal attack, but to a simple fact of nature, which is far easier to meet with calm acceptance. Marcus Aurelius regularly returned to this principle in his private meditations. He wrote that whatever happens to you has been waiting to happen since the beginning of time. The intertwined causal chains, he reflected, wove your path together with that event. He was not promoting a passive surrender, but a profound intellectual shift. By seeing an event as part of the universal nature of things, you remove the secondary judgment that it should not have happened to you. The event itself remains, but the layer of personal grievance melts away. This is the visualization of depersonalization. The cancelled plan, the sharp word, the unexpected setback, these are not arrows shot by a vengeful fate at you specifically. They are the natural outcomes of a million intersecting causes, a shift in someone else's mood, a prior decision, a chain of human choices and natural laws unfolding exactly as they must. To make this practical, consider a project at work being abruptly cancelled after months of your dedicated effort. The immediate, raw feeling is often one of personal disappointment. The mind constructs a story where your effort was overlooked. Now, apply the Stoic physics visualization. Step back and trace the causal chain without the protagonist, you, at the center. Visualize the project not as a cherished creation being set aside, but as one piece in a vast, moving system. See the shifting trends that changed its viability. Observe the prior budget decisions made long ago that now limit resources. Notice the new strategic priorities that emerged from a recent meeting. Each of these is a natural cause leading to a natural effect, the project's conclusion. Your hard work was not a cause that was ignored, it was one factor among many in a complex equation. This does not make the outcome pleasant, but it makes it intelligible and impersonal. The event moves from the category of personal difficulty to the category of natural occurrence. This mental reframe is incredibly liberating for social friction as well. Someone speaks to you with sharp impatience. The story you might tell is that they disrespect you. The Stoic visualization asks you to see it as the natural effect of preceding causes. Perhaps they are in some discomfort you cannot see. Maybe they are carrying the weight of a prior conversation. Their behavior is the rain falling from a cloud already full with particular conditions. Your task is not to take the rainfall personally, but to decide if you will open an umbrella or seek shelter. Your response remains within your control, but your emotional trigger is disarmed. Your challenge is to take this from theory to lived experience. Bring to mind one recent event that left you feeling genuinely upset. Now, deliberately re-visualize it. Strip away the narrative of unfairness or personal targeting. Instead, mentally map the chain of natural, neutral causes that could have led to this effect. What were the conditions, the prior decisions, the external pressures, the human factors in play? See the event not as a plot point in your story, but as a simple link in a much longer, impersonal chain. Can you feel the emotional charge begin to soften when you view it purely as an occurrence, rather than an accusation? The evening brought a quiet space for the Stoic to reflect on the day. This was not a session of harsh judgment, but a gentle and honest look at their own character in action. Where the morning prepared their intentions, the evening review considered their follow-through. It was a deliberate practice of closing the day with clarity, learning from every interaction, and then consciously letting go. Seneca described his own nightly ritual in his letters. He would ask his soul to account for itself, inquiring, "What progress have you made today? What challenge did you meet? In what way are you better?" His aim was not to find fault, but to find growth. He saw this as the essential work of self-improvement, a daily opportunity to smooth the rough edges of his character before they could settle. The process followed a simple, three-question structure, each one a visual scan through the hours now past. The first question was a search for light. What did I do well today? This was a conscious celebration of virtue in motion. You would mentally review and locate moments where you acted with patience, spoke with kindness, or demonstrated courage in a small, quiet way. Perhaps you listened fully when you wanted to interrupt, or you chose a thoughtful response over a reactive one. Visualize that moment again, not to stoke pride, but to reinforce the pathway. See yourself in that scene, acting from your best principles. This positive reinforcement makes it more likely that pattern will repeat tomorrow. The second question required gentle honesty. Where did I drift from my intentions? Here, you would identify a moment where an impression carried you away, where you assented too quickly to frustration or defensiveness. The key was to examine this not with condemnation, but with the detached curiosity of a scientist studying data. Visualize the scene, observe the trigger, the immediate feeling that arose, and the point where you chose to follow it. Then, mentally rehearse a different ending. See yourself creating that crucial pause, examining the impression, and choosing a more aligned response. This mental practice is how you prepare for a better performance tomorrow. The final question was an act of release. What can I set down now? This covered both your own missteps and the actions of others. you would visualize gathering up any lingering frustration, any replay of a difficult conversation, any self-critique that no longer serves you. See these thoughts as leaves in your hands, and then mentally open your hands and let the wind carry them away. For the actions of others, you would apply the understanding from earlier practices, seeing their behavior as part of their own path, and then consciously releasing your emotional hold on it. This step ensures you do not carry yesterday's weight into tomorrow's fresh start. Tonight, you can try a brief version of this ancient practice. Find a few quiet minutes as your day winds down. Close your eyes and visually scan back through the hours. Do not get lost in the story of each event. Simply look for one clear moment you handled with a bit more grace or strength than you might have before. See it, acknowledge it, and let the feeling of that alignment settle in. Then, find one small thing to release, perhaps a minor irritation you are still thinking about, or a self-judgment that is no longer useful. Visualize placing it in a stream or on a breeze, and watch it drift out of your mind's keeping. This simple reflection does not erase the day, but it completes it, leaving you lighter and clearer for the one that will begin at dawn. A Stoic sees a fortune not as a prize, but as a shovel. Its value lies entirely in what you build with it. This is the core of a vital mental shift, a way of seeing everything outside your character not as good or bad in itself, but as neutral material. The Stoics called these things indifferents, a term that can sound cold until you understand its liberating purpose. Health, wealth, reputation, even comfort are classified this way. They are not the ultimate goals of a good life because they are not fully within our control and can be directed toward any purpose. A strong body can serve many roles. A vast fortune can fund many endeavors. The visualization practice, then, is to consciously picture these preferred indifferents not as treasures to be clutched, but as tools placed in your workshop. Your moral task is not to own the finest tools, but to use whatever tools you have with wisdom and justice. The worth is in the craftsmanship, not in the hammer. Epictetus offered a brilliant analogy to make this clear. He said that wealth is like a playing ball. The ball's value is not in its possession, but in the skill and fairness displayed in the game. If the ball is lost, a good player does not collapse in despair. They simply continue playing well with whatever ball is available. The game, the exercise of virtue, is the point. The ball is just the instrument. This reframe dissolves so much of our anxiety about acquisition and loss. We stop asking, "Do I have the ball?" and start asking, "How well am I playing the game with the ball I currently hold?" Let us make this practical with a modern scenario. You receive a significant promotion and a larger salary. The common narrative is one of arrival, a reward that proves your worth. The Stoic visualization adds a deeper, more responsible layer. You close your eyes and see that new salary not as a trophy, but as a new set of resources, a more powerful tool set. Now, the important question emerges. What will you build with these tools? You might visualize using a portion to practice the virtue of generosity, supporting a cause you believe in. You could see it as a tool for providing security and education for your family, an act of justice and care. Perhaps it becomes a tool for creating more space for reflection and health, supporting the virtue of temperance. The resource itself is neutral, but your intentional use of it is where virtue comes to life. This applies just as powerfully to less tangible indifference, like social standing or recognition. See a position of influence not as a crown, but as a megaphone. Its value is determined entirely by the message you choose to amplify. Is it a message of encouragement, truth, and unity, or something else? The tool does not decide, you do. Your turn to practice this mental reframing. Bring to mind one possession, one circumstance, or one aspect of your life that you particularly value. It could be your home, your professional role, your physical vitality, or even your free time. Now perform the visualization. See that thing in your mind's eye. Then consciously shift its image. Transform it from a static object of desire into a dynamic tool. What specific virtue could this tool help you practice? If it is your home, it is a tool for practicing hospitality or creating a sanctuary for reflection. If it is your free time, it is a tool for practicing self-cultivation or deepening relationships. By seeing it this way, you transfer the focus of your worth from simply having the tool to the dignity and skill with which you choose to use it. When courage faltered, Stoics would close their eyes and summon a memory, not for fear but for strength. This practice moved beyond the abstract ideal of a sage to the vivid, breathing example of a real person who had walked the path of virtue fully. It was history made personal, a direct line of inspiration drawn from the past into a present moment of doubt. By visualizing not just a principle but a person, their specific choices, their words in a crisis, their final act of dignity, one could borrow a portion of their resolve. The historical record became a gallery of mentors, each life a detailed blueprint for integrity under pressure. Seneca wrote often of Cato the Younger, whose unwavering commitment to the Roman Republic led him to a final, principled stand. Seneca did not idolize the political outcome, but the quality of Cato's character, his steadfastness when facing overwhelming opposition. He presented Cato as a living proof that virtue could be maintained even when everything external was lost. To visualize Cato was to see that a person could remain free in their soul while constrained, could choose their principles over comfort, and in doing so, define their own victory. It was a mental anchor in any storm of compromise, a reminder that someone had faced profound trials and held true. You can bring this from ancient texts into a modern moment of moral unease. Imagine you are in a situation of social pressure where going along with the group means quietly setting aside a personal value. The easy path whispers to you and your resolve wavers. This is the moment to close your eyes and summon your exemplar. Do not just think of Socrates, see him. Visualize the scene in his cell, the cup in his hand. Feel the weight of that choice. Watch his calm demeanor, his continued conversation with his friends, his absolute refusal to flee or recant his teachings. He is not choosing an end, he is affirming a life lived in alignment with truth. That mental image, held for just a few seconds, recalibrates your own sense of scale. Your social discomfort is not his challenge. If he could face his ultimate trial with such composure, what strength might you find for this far smaller one? This practice asks you to build your own personal pantheon of courage. Who is the exemplar you would call upon for strength? It might be a historical figure like Marcus Aurelius himself, guiding an empire while wrestling with his own reflections. It could be a more recent individual known for quiet dignity in hardship. It might even be someone from your own life, a grandparent or mentor who faced difficulty with grace. The key is specificity. Do not just recall their name, visualize a singular moment where their character shone clearly. See the details, imagine the expression on their face, the set of their shoulders, the quiet decision in their eyes. Identify one such exemplar now. In your mind, walk through a challenge they faced. How did they move through it? What quality did they exhibit that you most need to cultivate today? Then, the next time your own resolve feels thin, take a breath and invite that vision forward. Let their remembered strength flow into your present choice, a silent partnership across time, proving that integrity is not a lonely path, but a trail well marked by those who walked it before. Beyond being a citizen of Rome or your hometown, the Stoics asked you to visualize your true citizenship, the entire world. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea repeatedly in his private journal, referring to the cosmos as a single city, a shared home for all rational beings. He wrote that we are fellow citizens and the world is like a city, a cosmopolis. This was not a poetic metaphor for him, but a foundational truth about human nature and our place in the universe. To visualize this world city is to engage in the most advanced form of interconnectedness, a mental act that systematically dissolves the artificial lines we draw between ourselves and others. It asks you to see the planet not as a collection of competing nations, but as one vast community, governed by a shared natural law of reason and mutual care. Your identity expands instantly. You are no longer defined solely by your local affiliations. You are a citizen of the cosmos, with duties and responsibilities to every other member of this universal community. This perspective does not erase your love for your local home. It simply places it within a much larger, more meaningful context. The constitution of this world city is not written on parchment, but woven into the fabric of reality itself. The Stoics called it the logos, the rational principle that orders all things. To be a good citizen of Cosmopolis means to live in accordance with this shared reason, to act with justice, courage, and kindness toward all members of the human family because they are, by nature, your kin. When you adopt this visualized identity, smaller conflicts rooted in tribalism begin to lose their grip. An insult from a stranger feels less like an attack from an enemy and more like a misunderstanding with a fellow citizen. A political debate shifts from a struggle for dominance between groups to a collaborative discussion among citizens about the best path forward for the shared city. Your primary loyalty is to the common good of humanity itself. You can apply this visualization to any issue that typically divides people. Take a current social or political challenge that often sparks heated disagreement. Now close your eyes and perform the mental shift. Instead of viewing it from your national, cultural, or ideological standpoint, step back. Visualize yourself as a senator in the Senate of the world city. Your sole mandate is the welfare of the entire human community. From this elevated balcony, what solutions appear that serve the whole? You are no longer advocating for one faction to win, but for the entire city to function harmoniously. This does not mean abandoning your principles, but it fundamentally changes how you advocate for them, moving from a stance of opposition to one of contribution to the universal good. Marcus Aurelius used this visualization to govern an empire, reminding himself that his station was a duty within the world city, not a possession to be exploited. He saw his power as an opportunity to benefit his countless fellow citizens, to be a force for rational order and justice within the vast human community. This mental framework is available to anyone, regardless of their station. It asks a simple, transformative question of your daily choices. How would your decisions change if you visualized yourself first and foremost as a citizen of the world? Would you speak with more patience to someone from a different background, seeing them as a neighbor in the global city? Would you consider the broader impact of your consumption, your vote, or your words on the shared environment of this planetary home? The practice turns every interaction into an opportunity to exercise your cosmic citizenship, building a small piece of the world you know is possible, right where you stand. To move beyond concerns about endings and change, the Stoics did not avoid the subject. They turned their attention toward the natural cycles of transformation. This was their most direct and perhaps most challenging contemplation, a deliberate meditation on the temporary nature of all physical forms. It was never an exercise in distress, but in radical acceptance, a way to see the physical self not as a permanent possession, but as a temporary composition of elements on loan from nature itself. By visualizing this natural process, they sought to strip away vanity, to humble the ego, and to find a profound peace with the way of all things. The aim was to replace unease with understanding, to see physical change not as a theft, but as a return to source. Marcus Aurelius turned to this reflection often in his private writings. He reminded himself with stark simplicity how soon the physical form completes its journey, how quickly the elements that composed him would be reintegrated by the world. He wrote of the brief space between life and memory, and then the quiet that follows. His purpose was not to create despair, but to create clarity. By continually acknowledging the temporary nature of the physical form, he could focus his energy and value on what he believed was enduring, the quality of his character and his actions. The body was a vessel for a deeper journey, not the journey itself. Seeing it this way dissolved anxiety about its inevitable aging and transformation, framing it all as part of a beautiful, universal cycle of giving and receiving back. You can approach this visualization not as a dark thought, but as a scientific and almost poetic observation of nature's economy. Find a quiet moment and close your eyes. Begin not with an end, but with a composition. Visualize your own hand. See it not as a solid, permanent object, but as a dynamic gathering of elements. Picture the calcium in the bones, once part of ancient sea creatures. See the carbon forged in the heart of a long-gone star. The water in your cells, the same water that has flowed in rivers and fallen as rain for eons. You are not a static statue, you are a temporary, walking ecosystem, a meeting place for the universe's raw materials. Now, gently fast forward the timeline. Visualize, in the broadest sense, the natural process of return. See those elements separating and dispersing, not as a loss, but as a release. The carbon returning to the soil to nurture new growth. The water evaporating to join the clouds, the minerals becoming part of the earth again. You are visualizing the ultimate act of recycling, the form's graceful dissolution back into the world from which it was borrowed. This perspective offers a powerful lens for contemporary worries about physical impermanence. Consider a common concern about aging, the appearance of a new line or a change in strength. Or reflect on the experience of healing, the feeling of the body as a temporary vessel. Now connect that thought to this larger visualization. That line, that sensation, that period of recovery is not a flaw in a permanent machine. It is a visible note in the ongoing song of transformation. The body is not betraying you by changing. It is faithfully following the natural law of all material things, which is to flow and shift. By mentally placing your specific concern within that vast, neutral cycle of elemental exchange, you can often soften its sharp, personal sting. It becomes less about you and more about nature. The process is impersonal, universal, and ultimately peaceful. So take a brief moment for reflection. Bring to mind one physical thought, however small, that occupies your mind. It might be a sign of the passing years, a consideration about well-being, or simply the tiredness that comes at the end of a long day. Now, without intensity, simply connect it to the larger process. See that fatigue as the energy of your elements needing rest and renewal. See that sign of time as the gentle, inevitable settling of borrowed materials. Can you feel a shift when you view this not as a personal failing, but as your participation in the most ancient and honorable process of all, the dignified return of stardust to the cosmos? The Stoic mind was not an open field, it had a gate, and the visualization of a vigilant guard stood watch there. This inner sentry was the practice of Prosoche, a profound and continuous attention to the present moment. Where other techniques helped you manage what was already inside, this one focused on the point of entry itself. It made the abstract idea of mindfulness concrete and actionable. You were not trying to empty your mind, you were learning to be its discerning gatekeeper, deciding with care which messengers from the outside world deserved an audience with your inner judge. The guard's sole duty was to protect the most valuable thing you possess, your faculty of judgment. Epictetus spoke directly to this when he taught that the chief task in life is to guard your ruling faculty. He said that impressions will come, they will knock, but you must not say to every impression you are true. Instead, you must say, wait, let me see who you are and where you come from. The visualization of the God gives form to that crucial pause. It personifies your own attention, turning it from a passive receiver into an active, protective force. Think of how many uninvited thoughts cross the threshold of your mind in an ordinary hour. A concern about tomorrow, a replay of yesterday's conversation, a sudden craving, a ping from your phone. Without a God, these impressions wander in unchallenged, setting up camp and influencing your mood and actions before you even realize they have arrived. With this visualization, you create a moment of interception. You see the distracting notification not as a command to look, but as a messenger approaching the gate. The God, which is your own conscious attention, steps forward. It examines the message. What is its purpose? Is it urgent? Is it true? Is it useful for my current task or peace? Based on that examination, the God makes a choice. It can admit the messenger for a full audience. It can take a note to be reviewed later, or it can politely decline entry altogether. The power is not in stopping the messengers from existing, but in consciously regulating their access to your inner space. You can practice this right now, in the middle of your day. For the next hour, set an intention to visualize your mental God. Do not try to silence your thoughts. Simply observe the process of arrival. Notice the next impression that tries to claim your focus. It might be an urge to check a news feed, a fleeting memory, or a sudden plan for later. As it appears, picture it as a figure approaching a fortified gate. See your God, a calm and alert presence, stepping forward to meet it. Watch the brief exchange. What does the impression want? Does it demand immediate attention, or can it wait? The simple act of visualizing this process creates the space Epictetus described. It turns autopilot into choice. By the end of the hour, you may not have fewer impressions, but you will have exercised your authority over them, strengthening the muscle of your attention each time the God stood its post. That memory you wish you could erase holds a hidden key to your strength. The past is fixed, but the Stoics found a way to change its emotional weight by re-visualizing it through a lens of understanding. This is not about rewriting history or pretending a difficult event did not happen. It is a therapeutic practice of cognitive restructuring, a deliberate act of returning to a memory not to relive the discomfort, but to reinterpret its meaning using the very principles we have explored. You consciously replay the scene while applying the Stoic tools, extracting wisdom where you once only felt distress, and releasing the lingering hold it has on your present peace. Seneca offered profound guidance on this very point. He wrote that we should turn past challenges into lessons and use our difficulties as the material for future strength. He saw every experience, especially the trying ones, as raw material for building a wiser and more resilient character. The event itself remains in the past, but your relationship to it, the story you tell yourself about it, is entirely within your power to reshape in this present moment. Consider a common anchor from the past, a professional setback or a personal misstep that still carries a hint of regret. The default mental replay is often a highlight reel of what went wrong, focused on the moment things did not go as planned and the feeling of personal inadequacy. The Stoic revisualization asks you to play that same memory, but with a new director's commentary. You revisit that past experience, but this time you apply the dichotomy of control as you watch. You clearly separate what was truly within your power at that time, your preparation, your effort, your intention, from what was not, the market conditions, another person's decision, the simple unpredictability of life. You mentally place the external factors into their proper circle and release your grip on them. Then you apply the principle of the obstacle is the way. You visualize that setback not as a dead end, but as necessary training. Perhaps it built a resilience you did not know you had. Maybe it revealed that your true path lay in a different direction entirely, closing one door so you could walk through another. That moment becomes the forge where your patience or your determination was tempered. the process transforms a source of shame into a source of insight. You are not condoning the event or dismissing your feelings. You are simply choosing to mine it for its value instead of its poison. You ask the Stoic questions of your past self. What virtue was this situation inviting you to develop? Was it humility, courage, or perhaps the wisdom to know when to let go? By finding an answer, you complete the circuit of that experience, allowing its energy to finally serve your growth rather than haunt it. Your reflective practice is to select one past regret, one that feels manageable, not overwhelming. Find a quiet space and bring it to mind. Now begin the re-visualization. Watch the memory unfold, but this time narrate it with Stoic commentary. Gently identify what was outside your control then, and consciously set it aside. Then focus intently on what was within your control, your response in the moments that followed. Finally, ask what lasting lesson or strength emerged from that chapter, even if it took years to see. This is how you change the color of an old thought, not by erasing it, but by illuminating it with the clear, compassionate light of understanding. Your heartbreak, your ambition, your fear, the Stoics would have you visualize them as threads in a tapestry woven for millennia. This final visualization technique moves beyond personal management into a profound sense of belonging. It is the practice of seeing the uniformity of human experience, a deliberate act of recognizing that the core emotional currents of your life are not yours alone. They are ancient, universal patterns. By picturing your private joy or sorrow as part of a grand, repeating design that stretches across cultures and centuries, you accomplish something remarkable. You dissolve the isolating illusion that your personal difficulty is a unique burden or your longing a solitary question. This perspective does not diminish your experience, it dignifies it by placing it within the shared story of humanity. You are not a solitary actor on a dark stage, you are a voice in a vast and timeless chorus. Marcus Aurelius returned to this reflection, often to ground himself amidst the immense pressures of ruling an empire. He would write reminders to himself about the fundamental sameness of life, regardless of station. He noted that the emperor and the slave, the wealthy merchant and the poor farmer, all navigate the same basic human realities. They feel the pangs of desire, the warmth of affection, and the inevitable transitions that come for everyone. He reflected on how the names of those from distant generations were once spoken with great regard, just as his would be. This was not a dark thought for him, but a deeply humbling and connecting one. It stripped away the superficial differences of status and circumstance, revealing the common ground of our fleeting and beautiful human condition. By visualizing this uniformity, he could meet others not from a place of imperial superiority, but from a place of shared fate. You can apply this visualization to soften the sharp edges of any personal difficulty. When a wave of uncertainty arrives about your future, pause for a moment. Instead of getting lost in the specific details of your own story, pull the camera of your mind back, way back. Visualize your feeling not as a solitary storm cloud over your head, but as one of millions of similar clouds passing over human beings across the globe at this very moment. See it as the same essential feeling that visited a Roman soldier the night before a battle, a Renaissance artist staring at a blank canvas, a parent in any era caring for a child. The circumstances are different, but the raw human emotion is a familiar, universal visitor. This mental act normalizes your experience. It tells you that what you feel is not a sign of personal failure, but a sign of your participation in the collective human journey. This practice builds instant bridges of empathy, even with those you might see as adversaries. When feeling challenged by someone, you can briefly visualize them not just as an individual in your path, but as a person navigating the same universal currents of hope for security, recognition, or peace that you navigate. You share the same fundamental operating system, even if you are running very different software. Your moment of friction is just one of countless similar moments that have played out since the dawn of community. So take a quiet moment now with a current personal challenge. It might be a professional uncertainty, a relational tension, or an internal doubt. Hold that specific concern in your mind. Now begin the visualization of the tapestry. See your struggle as a single colored thread. Then, in your imagination, watch as that thread connects to countless other threads of the same color, stretching back through history and across the world today. Threads belonging to people of every language and walk of life who have faced a version of this same human challenge. Does noticing that you are weaving a pattern as old as civilization itself change the weight of the thread in your hands? Individually, these visualizations are powerful. Combined into a daily sequence, they become a system for emotional resilience. The Stoics were not interested in collecting philosophical trinkets. They were dedicated to building a fortified mind, brick by deliberate brick, through consistent practice. The real transformation happens not when you understand a technique, but when you weave several together into a personal ritual. This is about creating a logical flow for your inner world, a mental architecture you can inhabit from morning to night. Think of it not as a rigid checklist, but as a flexible toolkit where you select the right visualizations for the terrain of your day. The goal is integration, making these ancient shifts in perspective a natural part of how you see the world. Let us outline a coherent daily sequence, one that mirrors the Stoic emphasis on preparation, engagement, and reflection. In the morning, your focus is on intention. Before the rush begins, take just a minute. You might start with the view from above, pulling your mental camera back to see your day as a small, meaningful part of a vast story. This sets a tone of perspective. Then, choose one specific challenge you anticipate. Pre-visualize walking through it, but always with the reserve clause in mind. See yourself acting with virtue while holding the outcome lightly with an if nothing prevents it. This prepares you to engage with effort, not attachment. As you move through your daytime hours, your visualizations become responsive tools. When a frustration arises, you instantly employ the dichotomy of control. You mentally draw those two circles, sorting the event into what is yours and what is not, and feel the immediate release of energy back to your sphere. If a strong emotion like anxiety or restlessness appears, you personify it. You see it as a passing visitor at your gate, and you, as the guard, decide whether to grant it a full audience or simply acknowledge its presence from the doorway. These are not lengthy meditations, they are swift mental maneuvers that create space between a trigger and your reaction. In the evening, during a quiet moment of review, you shift to integration and connection. You might reflect on one interaction using the lens of common humanity, visualizing the other person's experience to foster understanding and release any lingering irritation. You could contemplate a difficulty through the frame of the obstacle is the way, asking what quality it helped you strengthen. This nightly practice closes the loop, turning daily events into material for growth and reinforcing your connection to the wider human family. The Stoics emphasized consistent practice over perfection. Epictetus reminded his students that progress is made little by little through daily attention. It is the repetition that rewires your default responses. For a practical start, consider a condensed 5-minute sequence you can practice at any quiet point. First, spend 1 minute on the view from above, seeing your current concerns from a cosmic vantage point to shrink them to their true size. Second, take 2 minutes to apply the dichotomy of control to one specific, active worry. Visually place each element in its proper circle. Finally, spend 2 minutes visualizing an upcoming action where you will focus on virtue as the reward. See yourself performing a right action with integrity and mentally savor the feeling of alignment regardless of the external outcome. Your challenge is to move from learning to living. Design your own brief sequence. Choose just 2 or 3 visualizations that resonate most with your current life. Which one prepares your mind best in the morning? Which one helps you navigate midday friction? How can you reflect with wisdom at night? The structure is yours to build. The real question is not which technique is best, but which combination will you commit to practicing tomorrow to begin the steady work of coloring your thoughts with resilience and peace. The Stoic path to emotional mastery is not a passive philosophy of endurance, but an active art of inner vision. It is the deliberate practice of reframing your reality through a series of specific mental pictures. We have explored a gallery of these ancient visualizations, from the resilience built by anticipating challenges to the peace found in the cosmic view from above. Each technique is a tool for freedom, not repression, designed to help you separate events from your judgments about them. The goal has never been to feel nothing, but to feel with clarity, to respond with virtue, and to build an unshakable resilience from the inside out. This is the pursuit of a life lived with greater tranquility and purpose. As Epictetus so powerfully reminded us, freedom is secured not by the fulfillment of desires, but by the removal of desire. True liberty is found within the boundaries of our own minds, in our sovereign power to choose how we see the world. So now, the most practical question rests with you. Which one visualization will you carry with you from this video into your week? Will it be the pause at the gate, the circles of control, or seeing the obstacle as the way? Share your favorite technique or how you plan to use it in the comments below. If you found this guide to practical philosophy helpful, subscribe for more journeys into ideas that can truly transform your daily life.